Acquittal. I know that word acquittal, which means to declare someone not guilty or set someone free based on evidence and all that sort of thing. That word is not very popular today. And it's not very popular simply because we live in that time when so many criminals seem to be going free and being acquitted for things. And it does make us feel annoyed and perhaps angry also over that. Because I think we've learned as Christians, whether we're black and white, that we cannot feel safe in a society when people seem to be getting away with the crimes that they do, and especially when they're brought in and tried, and then they seem to be acquitted rather than indicted. And so I can understand how that word can not be so popular to people who are waiting for people to pay for what they have done, especially when they've harmed someone and harmed someone close to them. I think all of us, as from the household of faith, also believe that whether black or white, it's wrong to do wrong to people, and then, of course, get away with it. And sometimes people even smirk and smile when they get away with doing those things. So I realize and recognize that. But I want you to understand this morning that we're dealing with a divine acquittal this morning, which of course places it in a different category. And Jesus uses these words: "Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Go and sin no more." Now again, like last Sunday, the man with the withered hand who was commanded to stretch it out, and thereby stretched out on Jesus. This incident also occurs in the temple, which I think a lot of people forget, that it does occur in the temple. Jesus is there when this woman that they catch in the act of adultery is brought before him, and she's brought to the temple. And so this very popular incident, which appears only in the Gospel of John, has triggered many questions for centuries. Many questions as we go over it and read it. The main one that seems to be important, and is important to this thing of a divine acquittal, is what did these accusers, as Jesus referred to them, Jesus called them accusers, what did these accusers really expect of Jesus? What did they really expect of Jesus? Don't you ever wonder sometimes when people bring a matter to you, what people really expect of you? How do they really expect you to respond? Sometimes they're shocked if you're upset about something, and they'll say, "Gee, I didn't expect it to upset you." And you say to yourself, "Oh, what did you expect of me?" Or something like that. And so when we bring a matter like this, when we deal with something as delicate as this is, something as personal as this is, when we bring a matter like this, my question is, how do they really expect Jesus to respond to this? They have brought this woman whom they have caught in the act of adultery and have thrown her down practically at the feet of Jesus at the temple and stood around her with their eyes of accusations and charges, and then simply asked Jesus, "What do you say about the case? What do you say about it?" And so the question that comes to mind to me is, how did they really expect Jesus to act? Or what did they expect of him? What did they really expect of him? Did they bring this woman to Jesus for trial or just for sentencing? Did they expect him to try her, or did they want him just to sentence her? Had she already been judged and convicted by the Sanhedrin? Had they already found her guilty and had just brought her to Jesus? Was Jesus only to prescribe the punishment? Was that his only reason? What did they expect? These men who've taken, the Pharisees and scribes and all, who've taken time out to bring this woman before Jesus and right to the temple where Jesus is, and then tell Jesus rather, where they caught her, what she has done, and what the law says. And then they turn around and ask Jesus, But what do you say? What do you say about it? Pharisees and scribes, who up until this point have not shown a great deal of confidence and faith in Jesus, and most of the time were just there to find fault with him and ridicule him, and all of a sudden they want to recognize him as master. Look at that, look at that. Master meaning rabbi. Rabbi, this person whom they didn't want in the synagogue, this person whom they practically exiled from the synagogue and gave no invitation to the Sanhedrin for him, this person whom they have tried to embarrass and humiliate, all of a sudden they're concerned about what he thinks about something as sacred as the law of Moses when it comes to a judgment or a case of this kind. You got to wonder about people who never care about you, and then all of a sudden they want to show a lot of interest and a lot of concern. You got to be suspicious, and I think that all of us would like to feel that people are sincere and on the level. But you got to wonder about people if they've been finding fault, criticizing, trying to humiliate you, then all of a sudden your opinion becomes valuable to them and becomes important. And you got to wonder, that's why you got to be careful with these people who try to come and talk to you about somebody else. You got to be kind of careful about that. This person who stayed away from you, and you already heard they talked about you to somebody else, and all of a sudden they want to bring you the business and the affairs of somebody else. And they like to begin. They like to begin with that beautiful way of beginning. Now listen, I want you to understand, I'm not talking about anybody. See, that breaks the ice, isn't that right? I want you to know I wouldn't do that. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in talking about folks. But I thought that you ought to know this because this is what I heard. And after they tell you and fill your ears, then they want to know what you think about it. Well, I'll be guided by you because I don't want to think wrong of this person. What do you think? So you have to be suspicious. Jesus is never caught off guard. Never at all. Never slumbers, never sleeps, especially when it comes to his divine mission. And so when they approach him in the temple, and here is this woman before him, we have master, and they approach him with rabbi. You got to wonder now, all of a sudden they want to respect him as rabbi, and they didn't even want him in the synagogue. And that's where rabbis belong. They didn't even want him. But see, folk will call you anything that you want to hear when they're trying to get something out of you. So you got to be very careful, very careful. I heard a young lady say, oh, the reason why I'm married. I said, why did you marry that fellow if he fought you and did you wrong and stayed out, ran around? Why do you think you married him? She said, oh, because, he just treated me so nice when we were going together. Is that right? See, he called me the prettiest names. see, a lot of folks like darling and honey. But don't you know folk can darling and honey you when they want to get anything they want out of you? It's very easy to darling and honey folk when you want to get something out of them. This master, this rabbi, the way they come and approach Jesus is an insult to Jesus because they have never recognized him as a rabbi and a master. And all of a sudden, master, we've caught this woman in the act of adultery. We've caught this woman in the act of adultery, and we brought her before you. And we know what the law says. Moses has already commanded in the law that she should be stoned. But what we want to know, Jesus, is what do you say? But what is your opinion about this, master? It almost sounds respectful. It almost sounds as if they're really concerned. But the question has to be, just what do they expect Jesus to do? And how do they expect Jesus to react at this time? It's not likely that any legal trial had taken place since the Sanhedrin was now under Roman authority, and they could not really meet and rule on anything that Romans did not approve. So Sanhedrin never tried this woman at all. They didn't have that power. You remember, even when the Sanhedrin called Jesus in and called himself trying him in that kind of underground court that they had, that was illegal because the Sanhedrin had no power at that time. The Roman authority had taken the Jews' power away from them that they could not try any case at all. That's the reason why later on they had to present the case, and Herod and Pilate began to swap Jesus backward and forth because the Sanhedrin had lost its power to the Roman authority and government. So they could not have brought her before the Sanhedrin. These men have taken it upon themselves. And don't you wonder about these sanctimonious folk who take it upon themselves to be judge and jury of other people. People like to judge other people. And while you're sitting there now, somebody judging your life right now. Right now, passing verdict, they're giving a verdict on it too, and all, and gathering up fragments of evidence somewhere, trying their best to get a conviction. And I don't want anybody to feel uneasy or anything, and the gospel is good news, so I don't want to really burden anybody this morning. But you got to understand that there's always somebody around trying to get a conviction on somebody else. A conviction on somebody else, because I guess we're too let down to bother with our, or it lets us down rather, too much to bother with our own weaknesses. So it makes us feel good when we can magnify the weakness of somebody else. It makes us feel good. And so be on your guard when this happens, and be careful of people who bring you things in this way and in this manner. We caught her in the very, very act of adultery. So I need not go over that point that all the preachers go over, the fact that they only brought her and then bring the man. And I don't think I need to go over that fact. I think we can understand now where their motives lie. And we get a little bit closer to it here, because just as they had done in the past, they approached Jesus in this beautiful way of master. And so if they have not tried her in the Sanhedrin, and that has not happened because of the power of the Roman authority, and if they had not brought other cases before Jesus when people broke the law and brought them in front of Jesus, and if they had not really followed Jesus and believed in him as a teacher, then it's clear that this is nothing but a trap. That's all it is. Nothing but